In today's episode of the Pathway Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm Regan McGregor, who is hailing over as the growth marketing manager at Vervoe. And at Vervoe, they have a very interesting approach on people, right? So it's all about skills, right? And Vervoe is able to predict job performance by using skills assessment that showcase the talent of every candidate. Here, it's really about the person and what the person can actually do. So we want to deep dive into what Vervoe is all about. And also how Regan is thinking about growth in that very interesting industry. So Regan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Lucas.
Very cool. Yeah, give us, like a 360 overview. I gave it sort of a, an attempt to give an overview about you guys, but maybe you will be, much better on this. What is Vervoe all about in your own words?
For sure. I think you did a great job. So Vervoe is an AI-powered skills testing platform. And what that means is basically we test skills. And then in order to make that process efficient and streamlined, we auto-grade those skills using the knowledge of thousands of other employers that have graded similar skills. And so we basically help companies hire faster, with more confidence, and without bias. And we do that by allowing everybody to come in and let you see people do the job before they get the job, and then grade the answers to questions rather than the candidates themselves. And at the end, what happens is we rank all of the candidates based on how well they actually did the job, so to speak. And that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Very interesting. And maybe describe us a little bit sort of, the business model around this. B2B, which types of companies are leveraging your services? Who is a customer that benefits most from your offering?
Yeah, for sure. I guess we've got sort of two key groups. We focus one part on sort of enterprise people doing volume hiring. So say you're a company like Walmart or Australia Post, which is our post office here. You've got to hire thousands of people, and you know exactly what that looks like, what a great person looks like. And so what Vervoe allows you to do is screen those thousands of people to the skills that matter to you the most. And so then you're able to be a lot more efficient, and also in the process remove bias out of the equation, because you're just looking at people's skills and you're not looking at their CVs. You can basically get rid of CVs. You don't need them. You don't have to do cumbersome, thousands of interviews. You can see who the top performers are and then pull them out that way. On the flip side, we have, I guess, a product-led or an SMB function of the business. And I like to think about that as, imagine you want to hire a growth marketer, for example, and you don't know what is good, what is a good growth marketer. So what we've got is a library full of assessments written by experts in our team and ISIC, and we basically come up with these questions, and then you can go and put a growth marketer through there, and you can see, based off of how other people have graded those questions, what the top person is. And that's kind of a very, we're trying to democratize it. So that's, through a product-led kind of credit card upfront sort of subscription-based system. And then on the enterprise, it's more about the efficiency. So it's a much sort of larger kind of thing.
That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. Like who within those organizations is picking up on Vervoe? Is it like the head of HR? Is it, somebody that is like even like an HR ops operation role? Maybe share a little bit about sort of what is emerging there in terms of roles that are picking up Vervoe.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually interesting because it's generally not that. It's usually at the kind of mid-market level. It's more the hiring manager. Generally, they're the advocate. So we've got sort of competitors in the space like a HackerRank, where traditionally the head of engineering has said, like, I want to put all of my coding candidates through this thing, and they're the ones who bring it to the company, and because they know that this thing is going to get them quality at the end. So it's generally the hiring manager. We see a lot of heads of marketing, a lot of heads of customer service, and so on that do that. On the flip side, with the bigger organizations, it is generally like the head of talent acquisition. So generally like recruitment function, and a little less HR. But sometimes there's sort of, they use it for, I guess, internal sourcing. So allowing them to see the skills of their current employees and then do some internal mobility, put them in another role, promote them, that kind of thing.
Very cool. So there seems to be some distinct, I mean, there's many different distinct personas, but if I simplify it a little bit, we got like hiring managers who want to make sure they get the quality. And then, as we're saying, talent acquisition roles. How do they learn about Vervoe? Like, what's the journey that they go through? What's the channels that maybe you guys leveraging in order to drive growth, make them aware that you exist?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess a large amount of focus we've put in has been on inbound, and my kind of overarching philosophy is whenever somebody is in the customer journey of hiring, we want to be every touch point that they have within our marketing. So what we're doing is trying to add as much value to education in the hiring process as possible. And so honestly, the journey is very similar. It's not that indifferent. It might start something like, okay, I've thought I want to hire for this role, right? So they'll go and look for something like, how do I hire for this role? And we create content for that. We've got hundreds of recruitment guides to help them hire for a particular role. And then the next step in that might be, now I need to hire for that role. I need to write a job description. And so we go and educate them how to best write a job description for that role, how to remove, use inclusive words and those types of things. And they might go, okay, well, that step. Okay, well, I need a test. And so we have a public library of thousands of tests. They can go and find those tests. And I guess it depends which stage they're at the funnel. But what we're hoping to do is at each step of that process, leverage that intent to help them understand there's actually a better way to hire, and you don't need to just do resumes and phone screening and stuff that takes a huge amount of time.
Very cool. You mentioned content, if I understand correct. There's content being involved. Can you be sort of share a little bit like what specific sort of, not super specific, but just on a high level, like what type of, is it like paid acquisition, content, search? Like what do you sort of as a growth marketer seem to be very suitable in that sort of industry?
Yeah. So our biggest channel is search, I think, like regardless of whether it's paid or organic. So organic is probably the biggest because we've put a lot of effort into content. But I don't see them as as different channels. What I kind of like to think is it's just about intent. And so what we discovered, we've tried a lot of things. We've tried, brand and PR and events and this and that and the other, each, to varying limits of success. But what we found to be very successful is leveraging off the intent of people. So we try and get into the mindset of like, what is that customer going through and what things are they starting to ask when they're starting to hire? And so we attack that from like a vertical and horizontal approach. So we say, all right, if they're hiring, they're going to ask questions around how to write a job description, or how to reduce my attrition, or how to increase retention within my organization, or how do I hire remotely, or how do I do a video interview, or so on and so forth. And that's kind of getting them when they've got a pain and helping them with that pain. And we offer them solutions, both our solution and maybe simpler solutions, like we offer spreadsheets and stuff to help them along that journey of getting better and more efficient within their job. And then on that flip side, where we're at a horizontal level, it's how do we get in front of people? Like customer service is a big area for us because it just makes so much sense. How do we get in front of them and say, hey, customer service, manager or head of CS, like there's a better way to do this. We can get you the perfect customer service candidate, exactly the person you want, by simulating an environment just like yours, rather than just going, oh, well, they were head of CS at some other company, so therefore they must be good, or whatever.
That makes sense. Interesting. How do you think then about the website? I mean, obviously, when you have a lot of content, the website plays a big role. Like, what do you consider sort of, the major strength of the current website versus where do you see even, room and vision for improvement?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the website for us is a crucial part of our business. It's extremely important. It's the access to our app. It's where people sign up. I guess I think about it as we want it to be this large hub of resources, and whenever somebody comes to our website, whatever part of their kind of buyer journey or their learning about what we do, we want to give them every resource they need. And I'm a big proponent of like having a lot of stuff on the website rather than not, you see a lot of websites cut stuff out and just have a few things. I want to give people every bit of information that they need, obviously in a way that's easy to understand and access. But yeah, it's a very important part.
Very cool. Okay, I see. Now you as a growth marketing manager, like, and you fit interesting, positions in your career. Like, what have you learned when it comes to, driving conversions from the website? What is like methods, tools, approaches that you've sort of picked up along the way that you found to be actually quite effective?
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest learnings and it took me a while is I think growth is just about focus, actually. Like, you can get so many ideas and so many different things that you could or couldn't do, and different tools and this, that, the other. But what it comes down to is actually where you see success is where you focus. Like, we saw that with Vervoe when I initially come in. We were doing lots of things. We were doing everything, and we're doing none of it great because we were so stretched out and trying to figure out the things. But then when we looked at it, at a really like cutthroat level, we just said, okay, well, this is the channel, right? These search is where people are coming from. We should just go 100 times at that, and we should just push that hard. And that might mean that there's going to be a lower conversion rate on the website because we haven't got pop-ups and CTAs. But at the end of the day, we're building a scalable machine that when we have the resources and more customers, more money, all that sort of stuff, we can then go and focus on making that experience better, making the emails and the lead capture better, because we've got confidence that there's traffic coming in at the top, and we can actually have data to test things and see if they convert. Whereas if we had no traffic, what would be the point of improving CTAs?
Makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, what I'm curious about is, I mean, because you mentioned, okay, you put that laser focus on content. Obviously, this topic of interviewing HR is not, it's a topic generally probably with a lot of competition, right? When it comes to SEO. Yeah. You joined about 1.5 years in, I'd say, 1.5 years ago. What is something that you've picked up maybe that was surprising to you that made it possible for you guys to actually, become relatively quick, relatively strong on search? Like, what is something, maybe 1 or 2 key learnings that you've picked over that time?
Yeah. I think it's definitely been that intent piece, and the way we've kind of scaled that is we've looked at what our competitors are doing and just tried to do a lot better. And so, they've kind of almost done the hard work for us in saying, like, these are some of the keywords and search terms that work, and this is some of the language, and they're starting to educate the market. Some of them are huge organizations in, say, like video interviewing, where they're starting to educate the market. And so how do we leverage off the back of that people who are already in the funnel, already at the bottom of the funnel? So that's one area we've spent a lot of time on, and has been very successful. We've built tons of like comparison pages of different competitors and different sort of us versus video interviewing and psychometric testing. And so we kind of started at the bottom. That's been our kind of bottom up approach. So we said, okay, what's the stuff which are the most converted people, and then kind of work backwards from there. I don't know if that answers your question. No,
it definitely gives us an insight. One thing that I'm curious is, because it came up in the podcast quite a bit recently, which is the cookieless future, right? And you guys seem to be, at least there's paid acquisition, and quite a part of it. How is that something you as a growth marketer already start thinking about? Third-party cookies going to be out of Chrome by the end of this year, I'd say. Something that you already start thinking about, or what do you see? How do you see growth marketers currently reacting to that scenario?
Yeah, it's something really interesting, and I think it's going to really impact a lot of organizations. Like what I've noticed on, we've pretty much pulled most of our budget from Facebook because the marketing opportunities there that we can't do remarketing very well there, or like their targeting is very poor and doesn't work for our business, and they just seem to be taking targeting options away and kind of pushing people to stay on their platform. And so I guess the way we're thinking about it is going after that that focus on intent again. Like if we're doing, it's not going to be a situation where like you need it because you're finding the right keywords to bid on and running ads towards those. You know, looking at things like intent audiences from Google and those types of things. That's sort of the way we're thinking about it. Obviously, there's the part of building out our first party data and building our list is something we've been sort of aggressive on in the last sort of year or so, and because we know that it's going to get to a situation where it's going to be a lot harder to retarget. But it'll mean also we probably need to look at channels like growing LinkedIn, for example, where they've got data on the platform and we can target job titles and we can do that kind of stuff where it doesn't rely on cookies to get to those people.
Makes sense. Very interesting. I have some rapid fire questions for you to wrap up the interview for today. Are you ready for those?
Yeah, for sure.
What's the last book you read?
The book's Traction. It's by, I can't remember, Gabrielle, somebody, and the DuckDuckGo guy and somebody else.
Okay. What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Hiring great people. That's our big focus at the moment. We've gone through a period of growth, and now we need to hire absolute experts and let go of some things, which is as a bit of a perfectionist, something hard for me. But I've been really focused personally on like trying to hire people who are much smarter than me at their respective channels, so that opens me up to help them and to think about things more strategically.
When you got the right tools, if you are not hiring well, who would?
Exactly.
If there would be no boundaries in tech, right? What would be the one thing you would fix for your role today?
It's a good question. I think it would be getting that data together in a real easy way, like data from a lot of different channels and being able to kind of show that in a very simple and concise way. We spent a lot of time on data warehouses and tracking events, and we've got this tool and that tool, and there obviously is tools out there, but something that would bring all that information together and also kind of provide insights so that we could stop having to dig into it ourselves.
And the last question would be, right, if you would be joining Vervoe today, it's your first day, you're getting into the office, although I would assume probably your first day was a remote day, I assume, based on the situation. What's the one advice you would give yourself for your start with Vervoe?
Yeah, I would say steer away from the shiny objects. Like be very focused and, take it all in, take all the information in, but focus on the things that look to have the most traction and test those out.
You might be asking, like, because shiny objects, the concept is there. Obviously, what was a shiny object that interested you as a growth marketer, where you're kind of like happy? We said, oh, luckily we didn't go that route.
I mean, there's some that we did go that route. Like, for example, we invested in PR and it's hard and expensive, and like we got some great agencies and all that, but it requires a lot of work, and you've got to always have something very interesting to say, and it's very hard to get journalists' attention. So we've steered, away from that, and we'll go out to them when we have something interesting to say. I guess do it on a project basis. But yeah, that's an example like of one thing where it's been really one of those things that has been shining.
Regan, I really appreciate you joining us on the show today. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about Vervoe today, what's the one thing that they should remember?
Yeah. Basically, I'd say check out Vervoe. It'll help you hire with way more confidence, faster, and you'll be able to give every person a chance to show their real skills, and you'll find hidden gems along the way. Vervoe.com. That's where to go.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Platform Presents.